Okay, so as I explained in previous videos, for those of you who aren't familiar, Goosebumps HorrorLand is a series on its own. I believe it has 12 books, I've got them all. Um, but each book is themed differently, as and each of them stands alone within the Horrorland series. But each book tends to have its own like pre-existing series before Horrorland was written. So the previous one was Revenge of the Living Dummy, and the predecessors of that one were like Night of the Living Dummy 1, 2, and 3, I think. Um, this one, I believe, is Deep Trouble 1 and 2, but like I said, being able to stand alone, I'm not going to go through that because it turns into this web of just which book's related to which one directly and like how do they go together in the series, and it just gives me a headache. So I'm just going to go straight through the Horrorland books because the theme is the same. All the kids go to Horrorland, but the bulk of the stories are all different. So the first one was about a dummy. This one is about two children messing around in the ocean. And it's called Creep from the Deep, and it's book 2 in the Horrorland series by R.L. Stine. The first page here shows a Horrorland thing, Black Lagoon Water Park. Dive right in. You'll be up to your neck in excitement. Sink or swim at these great attractions. Loch Ness Lake, Quicksand Beach, Swim with a Hungry Shark Ride. www.enterhorrorland.com. So it has this nice little poster. And then on the flip side of that same page, it has the poster all crumpled up and in big black letters says Escape Horrorland. So that's a hint. Right? And then there we go. Three rides in one. Creep from the Deep 1. Enter Horrorland 101. Fear File 147. Creep from the Deep, Chapter 1. My name is William Deep Jr. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I live for adventure. The people who think I'm a normal 12-year-old call me Billy, but the few who really know me call me by my secret name, the Undersea Mutant. For me, danger is like breakfast. I can't start my day without a healthy, balanced bowl of danger. Here I am in the middle of the ocean. Sure, it's dark and dangerous, but what do I call it? Home. I'm swimming off the island to Caribo, a tiny sand field in the Caribbean Sea. Caribbean Sea. I peer straight ahead through my infrared snorkel mask. My laser-guided razor fins cut through the waves. I follow a school of silvery angelfish, sparkling like diamonds in the sunlit waters. They don't seem to realize the danger nearby. But my mutant senses are alert. No underwater villain can escape me. You may remember some of my adventures. I'm the one who defeated Sandy the Squid. He called himself the Cephalopod of Steel. Sandy liked to tickle swimmers to death until I tied his tentacles in a knot. Remember the Ragin' Ray of Honolulu Bay? He's not raging anymore. How about Joe, the great white stingray? After a smackdown with the undersea mutant, he floundered off with his stinger between his fins. The snapping tortoise of terror? After our 3-day underwater battle, I tossed him into a soup bowl. His new name was Delicious. Yeah, I'm tough, but these are tough waters. And now I'm about to face my most dangerous foe, the albino electric eel. The only one in the known universe. I see him waiting for me behind a bank of red and yellow coral. To your eyes, he's just a long string of seaweed. That's because you don't have mutant vision. I lower my 4D high-def mask into the water and kick harder. I glide toward my foe. I don't hesitate. I grab him barehanded and begin to apply my famous eel squeeze. Zzzt. 200,000 volts of electricity shoot through my body. Enough power to electrocute a dozen men, but to me it's only a slight itch. I thrash and kick, wrestling with this eel of evil. Another jolt of electricity makes the churning water start to boil. Yes, it's getting hot down here, but the only one who's in real hot water is my wriggling enemy. I hear a voice, a distant voice, calling my human name. Billy? Billy? A desperate cry for help. Someone is in danger. I let go of the eel. Catch you later, I think. I fight my way to the surface. Someone needs me. Chapter 2. Billy? Billy? I bobbed up to the surface, pulled off my snorkel, and raised my mask. I stared into the sunlight. I saw my uncle. He was leaning over the rail of his boat, the Cassandra. He stared down at me. Billy, what were you doing down there? He called. Just pretending stuff, I said. Was that seaweed you were fighting? He asked. I didn't know he was watching. I thought maybe it was an eel, I said. He chuckled. Well, you gave it a beating it won't forget. Dr. D thinks my superhero fantasy are funny. Climb up here, he shouted. You've been pestering me for weeks to teach you how to use the fishing spear. This seems like a good time. Awesome, I cried. I turned and kicked my way toward the ladder at the stern of the boat. The Cassandra is a long white boat the size of a small house. It's actually a sea lab, 3 decks tall. The lower deck has sleeping cabins for us and the crew, storage compartments, and the galley, where we cook our meals and eat together. The main deck is filled with research cabins and study labs and all kinds of radar and computer equipment. At the front of the top deck is the pilot's cabin, with the wheel and other controls. Behind that is an observation deck with even more electronic equipment. My uncle is a marine biologist. He studies tropical fish and undersea plants. He spends a lot of time looking for fish and plants that haven't been discovered yet. Dr. D helped pull me onto the deck. He laughed when I splashed water over the front of his white lab coat. I tossed my snorkel, mask, and fins into the metal bin near the rail. Then I pulled off the wetsuit and tossed it in too. My uncle's name is George D, but everyone calls him Dr. D. Even my dad, his brother, calls him Dr. D. Dad says everyone called George that back when he was 10 years old. That's because he was always studying bugs and dirt and tree leaves and stuff, even when he was just a kid. Dr. D is short and thin. He wears thick, black-rimmed glasses. He has curly brown hair and a bald spot on top of his head, and the expression on his face is almost always serious. He wears a long white lab coat with a dozen pockets. He looks just the way a scientist should look. He put a hand on my shoulder and led me along the side of the deck. How was the water? He asked. Kind of wet, I said. He chuckled. It was a little joke we shared. He raised the long metal fishing spear. Know what this is? He said. A toothpick for a whale? I replied. He laughed again. Let's get serious, Billy. This is a very dangerous weapon. He wrapped my hand around the end. Hold it like this. Yes, I thought. The undersea mutant Raisins the Pulverizer. My death spear made of supercharged lightning. Dr. D took the spear from me. He wrapped his hand around it and raised it over his head. Billy watched carefully. This is how you throw it. See how I have it balanced? He pulled back and heaved the spear into the water. I watched it cut through the surface without making a splash. Dr. D had attached a long rope to the back of the spear. He used it to pull the spear onto the boat. It takes a while to get the feel of it, he told me. Get the right balance first, then aiming it will be a lot easier. He handed the spear to me. It's heavier than you thought, isn't it? It's light as a feather to the undersea mutant. Yeah, kinda heavy, I said. He slid my hand closer to the middle of the shaft. Hold it here, he said. Go ahead, get it balanced, then give it a try. I gripped the spear tightly. I stared over the rail into the sparkling water. I took a deep breath. I pulled my arm back as far as it would go, and I heaved the spear with all my might. Help! A shrill voice shrieked from the water. My little sister, Sheena. Help! You hit me! Chapter 3. My heart skipped a beat. I let out a horrified cry and gripped the railing with both hands. No, please, tell me I didn't do it. Gasping for breath, I stared down over the rail. Sheena's black hair spread out like a limp jellyfish on the surface of the ocean. Was she floating face down? No, she tilted her head up. Hope I didn't scare you, Billy. She raised the spear in one hand and waved it over her head, laughing. Sheena, that's not a good joke, Dr. D said, shaking his head. Sure it was, Sheena replied. It worked. What a brat. You didn't scare me at all, I said, my voice cracked. I hope she didn't notice. Sheena is 10, and she likes to prove that she's the bold, brave one in the family. Maybe she is a little braver than me, but mainly she's just loud and annoying. Dr. D, Sheena shouted. You shouldn't let Billy play with sharp things. He'll poke his eye out. I groaned. Ha ha. Toss up the spear and wait right there. I need the target practice. You couldn't hit the ocean from there, she cried. Then she laughed at her own dumb joke. Come up here, Dr. D called to her. I need to talk to you both. Sheena climbed onto the deck. She pulled off her mask and her wetsuit, straightened her red swimsuit, and shook out her hair. We look a lot alike. We both have straight black hair. Mine is short, and hers comes down past her shoulders. We're both tall and kind of skinny. We both have blue eyes and heavy dark eyebrows that make us look serious even when we're not. Sometimes people say, "You two must be twins." That makes me stick my finger down my throat and gag, because first, I'm a whole 2 years older than she is, and second, we're not alike at all. Sheena doesn't like to pretend. She would stare at the albino electric eel and say that's just a clump of seaweed. No way she could share the same amazing adventures of the undersea mutant. She only likes things that are real. How boring is that? Sheena carried the spear across the deck and dropped it on my bare foot. "Ow!" I screamed, hopping up and down. "I told you to be careful with that thing," Sheena said. "Maybe next summer I'll invite my other niece and nephew to join me," Dr. D said. "They get along." "We get along fine," Sheena said. She wrapped her arm around my shoulders and gave me a big fake hug. "Don't we, Billy Willie?" Totally annoying, right? "No more target practice for today," Dr. D said. "Take your places. It's time to move. I just got the okay over the radio, and the navigation maps I've been waiting for arrived today via satellite. So we are ready for action." He turned and headed up to the pilot's cabin. "Where are we going?" I called after him. "Deep waters," he said. He looked back and frowned at us. "Very deep waters."